So welcome back, everybody. This is session 6, Get More Active. And of course, our reminder to you as you watch this recording, remember you need to have direct interaction with your lifestyle coach for each session. So after this recording, schedule a call with your lifestyle coach to review the lessons learned. And what will we learn today? So again, today is about Get More Active, and the objectives for today are the purpose of getting more active, ways to get more active, track more details about your fitness, and then of course, you'll get a chance to write a new action plan, and you might even get to move around a little bit.
Hey, okay, so we're going to start with the purpose of getting more active. So the purpose is to allow you to reach your fitness goal for this program. So what is your fitness goal for this program? Well, as you might recall in one of the earlier lessons is to get at least 150 minutes of activity each week. And your pace should be at least moderate. So 150 minutes, that's like 30 minutes, 5 days a week, if you add that up that way. So what does moderate mean? To find out if you're being active at a moderate pace, you can do the talk test. What is the talk test? So the talk test is basically while you are, say you're out for a walk or something, and you might just start talking. And if you're finding that you can't talk, you can't get more than 3 words in without having to stop and take a breath, you need to slow down. If you find you can sing an opera or whatever, and it's no problem, you need to speed up. So that range between where you can't talk and you can't sing, but you can talk is where you need to be. And this changes because as you get more fit, over time, your heart and lungs get into better shape. So in order to get the same effect on your breathing, you need to be a little more active each week. Now I'm going to show you a couple of studies that show this. So this one looks at different levels of fitness. So on the bottom cross, you see low, moderate, and high. And these are fitness categories. So low basically means somebody who's very sedentary. Moderate is somebody who works out maybe 100 minutes a week, and high is somebody who's very active. And then on the vertical axis, you see it goes from 1.0 down to 0. So that has to do with cardiovascular risk or just risk of mortality. So 1 is kind of like the highest one. It means it's like you're at the highest risk, and they're just comparing a baseline to any level of fitness. So when you go from a low fitness to a moderate level of fitness, your risk goes from a 1, means like 100% risk, down to 0.4. So the risk has really dived down to about 60% less than if no fitness. And this is a really important point because what it says is that anything is better than nothing. And then when you go from a moderate fitness to a high fitness, there is still more improvement, but the change is not as drastic as from low to moderate. This does not mean you should aim for high fitness, but the point here is this: getting out and doing anything, whatever works for your body at this moment in time, is going to drastically reduce your risk of mortality compared to doing nothing. In the second study, this looks at something called VO2 max, and this is a term in exercise physiology world that refers to how much oxygen you are able to take in per breath. The higher the VO2 max, the more oxygen you are able to take in per breath. And so what this is showing is a group of people who went through a 3-year training of, I believe this study was walking, and they looked at their VO2 max right when they started, and it was at a 53. And then at year 1, they measured their VO2 max and it was almost 65. So that means they were able to take in that much more oxygen than when they started doing nothing. And then as you see with year 2 and year 3, they continued to increase the amount of oxygen they could take in. But again, just like in the previous slide, the biggest change was going from nothing to something. So again, when we look at that talk-sing test, and we said that you might kind of be going a certain pace and staying between that and talking and singing range, but as your fitness improves, like your VO2 max, you will need to work out harder to reach that same level. And that actually feels really good when you get to that point. But I just hope to encourage you that seeing that just doing something is where you're going to get the biggest bang for your buck.
Okay, so we've talked about the purpose of getting more active, and now we'll talk about some ways to get more active. And so we'll turn to Olga's story on page 3, and I'll put that up on the screen for you guys. All right, so I will just go ahead and read the first paragraph of the story. Well, I'll actually go ahead and read through week 3. So Olga is at risk for type 2 diabetes. So she's trying to get a little more active each week. Her goal is to be active for at least 150 minutes per week at a moderate pace. So week 1, Olga takes a gentle stroll around the block. It takes her about 10 minutes. She does this for 3 days that week. On week 2, Olga walks around the block 2 times. It takes her 17 minutes. She does this for 5 days that week. On week 3, Olga walks around the block 3 times. It takes her 21 minutes. She does this for 7 days that week. So what do we see here between weeks 1 and 3? What is Olga doing to make her walks more active? So we can see just in those 3 weeks, she's maybe walking longer, maybe faster. She's picking up her speed. She's going a little bit farther. And then I'll go ahead and read weeks 4 through 5 and see how she adjusts even more.
It looks like she's also going more days a week.
Yeah, that's a really great point too, Sharon. Thanks. Yeah. So on week 4, Olga follows the same walking schedule as she did in week 3. Plus, she adds some hills to her route. One day, she also does 2 sets of 3 reps with a resistance band. On week 5, Olga follows the same walking schedule as she did in week 3. For 2 days that week, she also does 3 sets of 5 reps with a resistance band. So these days, Olga is meeting her fitness goal. She's lost weight and her blood sugar is lower than it was before she started getting more active. So again, what are some other ways that Olga has increased her activity? Well, in week 4, we see that she added some hills to her walking route. So that certainly adds a bit of activity and more cardiovascular work for her. And then another big piece here is that we see her adding in resistance band workouts. So resistance bands are a really great tool to use if you're starting to get into fitness or you're getting back into fitness. They're a really great way to do some strength training. So whether you're using them to do bicep curls or other upper body exercises, they're also really great exercises for the lower body. So those are really fun tool, usually relatively less expensive compared to if you're trying to buy like a dumbbell set for yourself. So those are a really great option for kind of a starter kit for some of your strength training at home. Another thing we want to point out in this lesson is what we see here in Olga's story. She's talking about sets and reps, but what are those? What does that mean? So what are reps? Reps are repetitions, or how many times you stretch the band in a row. So I say band because Olga's using a resistance band here, but maybe you're using dumbbells. So again, it's how many repetitions of you moving that weight. And then what is a set? A set is a group of reps. So for example, we see here that Olga did 3 reps for 2 sets. So that means she did 1, 2, 3, took a little pause, and then did 3 more reps. And those were her 2 sets. So just to give ourselves a chance to move a little bit, I'll invite you all to stand up and we'll do our own little 2 sets of 3 reps. And we don't have resistant bands. Maybe you do at home. We're just going to do squats today for this lesson. All right, so we'll just do 3 squats. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. So that's 1 set of 3. Take a little pause, and now let's do another set. 1, 2, 3. All right, so that's just a quick movement for us today, but also a great chance for us to kind of really nail down what is a set, what is a rep, and then we'll get a chance to track that when we talk about tracking in our fitness log here in a little bit. But another thing to pay attention to here in Olga's story is that she increases her weight, or she increases the number of sets she's doing and the number of reps she's doing as time goes on. So you see in week 4, she did 2 sets, 3 reps. Week 5, she did 3 sets of 5 reps. So that's a really great strategy for increasing your activity as well. And then I'll take us back to the PowerPoint. Another thing that we saw in Olga's story here is that she was really interested in building muscle. So she started doing the strength training with those resistance bands. So Olga knew that muscle burns calories, even at rest. And so we have this slide here just to show you that you can see in this image, we have 5 pounds of fat, 5 pounds of muscle. So they weigh the same, but their volume is very different. So you can see fat is taking up more volume than muscle. And again, muscle burns more calories even at rest than fat. So you can see the numbers at the top here that 1 pound of muscle burns 7 to 10 calories during the day, even at rest. And then 1 pound of fat burns 2 to 3 calories during the day. So it's a no-brainer that you would want more muscle than fat, right? It's burning more calories and it takes up less space. But this is one of the reasons why we have emphasized in this class so far, and will continue to do so. We emphasize that, the number on the scale isn't necessarily the end-all be-all, because some people might not notice that the number on the scale is changing. So maybe they're not losing weight, but their clothes are fitting them differently. And so that's because they're gaining muscle and losing fat, right? So that fat that usually takes up more volume, they're losing and gaining muscle, which takes up less volume. So their clothes are fitting them differently, but the number on the scale isn't necessarily changing. So that's something that's really important to keep in mind. Another really important piece to why muscle is so important is this next study here. And I'll let Sharon talk about this one.
This is a really, really interesting study. So what they're looking at here, they took one guy and on a stationary bike, and they had him train with just one leg. So his other leg was probably just sitting up on the top, and then he just pedaled with one leg. And what they were measuring was how much glucose that muscle was taking up. And this, again, is why, a big reason why exercise is a part of this program is because exercise makes your muscles like sponges for absorbing that glucose out of your blood. So if you look at the graph on the left, you see on the bottom horizontal, it has time. So he was on this bike for 120 minutes, so 2 hours. That's a long time to be pedaling with just one leg, but that's what this study was. And then on the vertical axis, you see it goes from 0 to 120, and this is how much glucose his muscles were taking up per minute. So what they found, if you look at the dark circle, the black circle, you can see it consistently, he's taking up a lot more glucose throughout. And then on the untrained leg, he is not taking up as much. The beauty of this study is, like, you can't say, well, he might have had a different diet, or might have been some discrepancies. This is the same person, same body, so it's clearly showing that just the exercise changed his glucose uptake into his muscles. And then on the graph on the right basically looks at the mean is like the average glucose uptake for the whole training 2 hours. And so you can see the trained leg took up about 50 millimoles of glucose versus about 30 or 35 for the untrained leg. So you put that together over time, going for 150 minutes a week, I mean, it really adds up. So another big bonus for regular physical activity.
So another really important piece to keep in mind is that, well, a lot of studies have shown that performance-based goals are actually better than aesthetic-based goals. So the aesthetic-based goals are something like wanting to lose weight, that's your only goal is weight loss, or you really want a skinny waist, or I want six-pack abs. It's all based on physical appearance and really wanting to obtain a certain physical characteristic. Whereas the performance-based goals are something like, oh, I really want to be able to do push-ups on my toes instead of my knees, or I want to be able to hold a plank for a whole minute instead of 20 seconds. Or maybe if you're a runner, you want to increase your running to even a 10K, half marathon, a marathon, instead of only being able to run a 5K or less. So really having those performance-based goals will be more motivating for you because you'll be able to see an improvement in your strength and abilities, and that'll keep driving you forward. So that's something I really want to emphasize in this lesson is make sure that you are finding some sort of performance-based goal for yourself. Because of course this program really talks about, oh, weight loss, this is key. But for you personally and your physical fitness goals, finding a performance-based goal would be really helpful. And with that, we'll move on to tracking.
All right, so let's talk about tracking this. We've already talked about tracking food, and the same thing with tracking exercise. The more detail you can put in there about your fitness, the more it's going to help you reach those fitness goals. So in order to see if you're getting more active, this is a real important piece, but it's not a requirement of the program. So let's we're going to look at tracking more detail. So here's some examples here. You can track the calories burned, the distance you've gone, the number of steps. A lot of apps give us that. The grade of a hill, the speed you've gone, the amount of weight you've lifted. These are just some ways to measure it. So the other one is you can say, let's say you have a course and it's 2 miles. Let's say it's a track, and you know how long it takes you. And say initially it's taking you 20 minutes, and then you're noticing that after doing it for a few weeks, you're able to do it in 15 minutes. And so just being able to see that, it's very motivating to help you kind of get to the next level of your fitness. So we're going to now look at some more details right now, and Angie's going to put up the fitness log that's in your participant guide, and we're going to just kind of look at that. So as as just a suggestion of ways you can track your fitness. So this one gives you the day, the minutes, and any other detail. So this is for you, whatever you want to put in there. So minutes is a very important piece, because as you remember, for this program, we want you to get 150 minutes of that moderate talk sing intensity per week. So tracking those minutes is very important. So at the end of the week, or when you come to class, you can report what that number is. And that last section on other details about your activity, this is what I'm talking about, where you can add those extra details that you can look back on and just say, oh man, I really improved from what I was doing a few weeks ago. And it just is going to help you reach those performance goals more so than not tracking those. So besides tracking your minutes, reps, and sets, what are some other details about activity? Well, we can look at some ways to measure your activity. We talked about the calories burned is one, how far, the grade of the hill, the number of the steps, the speed you're going. You can do the amount of weight you've lifted. Some other ways to measure could be things like using your watch or your phone to measure how long you went out for, or a fitness tracker like a Fitbit or a pedometer, or the smartphones now, they have it so built in now you don't even have to touch anything and it's already tracking your steps. Or if you're in a gym, something like a treadmill where it gives you all that information on a screen. And then other ways to record your activity besides this. This is a great analog version, but for some people, they like a little more digital. So again, there's those fitness trackers. We offer the MoveSpring app where you can track your steps and sync that with your phone. You can use a spiral notebook. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. You can make a spreadsheet. Some people really like that. They like to use an Excel spreadsheet and write a lot of detail. And just like with the food tracking, you could also do a voice recording. Just say what you did, and then kind of keep it in a special place on your phone and listen back to it. But ultimately, though, you want to write the details, either mostly in your fitness log. But the only requirement for this program is to write down your minutes of activity and how many minutes a week. 150. What intensity? Moderate, defined as between talking and singing. All right, so let's look at ways to get more active. That's on page 4 of your participant guide. It gives you ideas of how to get more active. So between now and the next session, please write how you will get more active over the next few weeks. I'd also like you to look at Build Your Muscles on page 5 and 6 and try some of those ideas. So a lot of times I've seen people, they'll say, well, I hurt my knee, so I can't exercise. And this is, showing you that, yes, you might not be able to walk, but there are other things you can do. And our bodies are never working 100% all the time. And so the key here is finding something that does work for you. Because as you remember from those graphs, something is better than nothing. And if it means you have to do something different than you're used to, that's okay. That all counts. Yeah. Okay, now Angie's going to go on to our action plans.
Okay, right. So Sharon walked us through these resources. Your participant guide is always there for you if you need to go back for some helpful tips. But yes, now it's time to write your action plan. And of course, we remind you to make one that is realistic, doable, specific, and flexible. And maybe this week your action plan is about getting more active. And be specific about what you'll do, when you'll do it, where you'll do it. Maybe you'll incorporate some of these tips that we saw in Olga's story, either adding some hills to your walk or adding some resistance band workouts. Either way, we encourage you to work on an action plan and then share it with us when you check in with your lifestyle coach. Otherwise, we've come to the end of our session today, and we encourage you to look at some of these bonus materials that we found for you. So there's the Well for Culture podcast, which is a podcast done by an Indigenous couple that's really doing a lot of education in the wellness space for Indigenous communities. And this podcast for episode 5 is specifically about movement is medicine. And so that's a really great thing to listen to while you're doing a workout or you're out on a walk. And then they also have a video on their website about fitness in Indigenous languages, and we encourage you to check that out as well. Otherwise, today we discussed how getting more active can help you prevent or delay type 2 diabetes. We talked about the purpose of getting more active, some ways to get more active, and how to track more details about your fitness. And of course, you also got a chance to move around a little bit. We did some squats, and hopefully you joined us from home. And then you tried tracking that and more details about your fitness in the fitness log. So that wraps us up for today, and we'll remind you again that you are required to have direct interaction with your lifestyle coach. So after you watch this recording, work on your action plan, listen to those optional materials if you'd like, and then make a call with your lifestyle coach to review the session and report your weight and physical activity minutes for the week. And then you're done. So that's it for session 6. Get more active, and we will see you guys next time.